Part 1. The disruption. Quantum manifestation doesn't happen tomorrow. It doesn't happen in 10 minutes. It happens at the speed of thought, which is to say, it happens instantly. So, the most haunting question you will ever face is not how to manifest faster. It is this. Why does your life feel like it is always one step behind what you know is possible? Most people believe they are waiting for reality to catch up to their thoughts. They think there is a process of building or shipping an outcome from the universe to their doorstep. But the quantum field doesn't recognize timelines, deadlines, or sequences the way the human mind does. In the field, there is no process moving forward. There is only a simultaneous sea of probabilities that exist right here, right now. If your manifestation hasn't shown up, it isn't because the universe is slow or because you haven't worked hard enough. It is because a specific mechanism in your brain, a waiting state, is keeping that outcome in the category of not yet. Today at NeuroQuantum, we are going to dismantle the waiting loop and flip the internal switch that collapses the gap between the observer and the observed. Part 2. The neuroscience of the waiting posture. We often think of waiting as a passive act, like sitting at a bus stop. But neuroscientifically, waiting is an active, high-energy internal posture. When you are waiting for a manifestation, your brain is locked in what we call a predictive loop. Your nervous system remains in a state of subtle activation, constantly scanning the environment for confirmation, signs, or feedback. This scanning is not neutral. It is a biological reinforcement of the message. This event has not occurred yet. The brain's predictive processing networks are designed for survival. When they scan for something that isn't there, they trigger a low-level stress response. This state keeps you anchored in linear time and physical survival, preventing you from accessing the non-linear potential of the quantum field. The quantum field does not respond to what you want. It responds to your state of being, how complete or incomplete you are in relation to the outcome. When you wait, you are broadcasting a frequency of separation. The field, with absolute precision, reflects that relationship back to you, ensuring that the manifestation remains exactly where you positioned it, in the future. Part 3. Quantum selection versus creation. To understand why manifestation feels instant for some and eternal for others, we must look at quantum consciousness theory. Thinkers like Amit Goswami suggest that consciousness doesn't create by pushing things into existence through effort. It creates by selecting from what already exists in the field. Nothing is being assembled in the future. Outcomes are not on the way, like a package in the mail. Every possible version of your life already exists as a fully formed probability waveform. Selection, the collapse of the wave function into a particle of experience, only happens when the observer is no longer internally split. Waiting is the definition of internal ambiguity. It is the message that says, I want this, but I acknowledge it is missing. This split prevents the collapse of reality, because your observation is fixed on the gap rather than the goal. The field doesn't move toward you. You move into coherence with what already exists. Part 4. The identity of the process. One of the most dangerous traps in manifestation is the identity of the seeker. Many of you have been visualizing, affirming, and working on yourselves for so long that waiting has become your primary identity. You have become the person who is in the process, or almost there. This identity feels hopeful, but it is fundamentally incomplete. The field mirrors your identity before it mirrors your intentions. As long as you identify as someone who is trying to manifest, the field will provide you with more opportunities to try, rather than the result itself. This creates a strange emotional flattening. The initial excitement of a new goal fades into a quiet, neutral frustration. You aren't stressed enough to panic, but you aren't calm enough to settle. You are suspended in a not yet loop that wires itself deeper into your neural pathways every single day. Part 5. The somatic switch. Internal resolution. The switch that ends the delay is not a mental trick. It is a physiological shift called internal resolution. This is the moment your system stops negotiating with the outcome. Resolution means the emotional charge around the desire drops to zero. The nervous system exits the predictive stress loop and enters a state of restorative coherence. In this state, your breathing deepens, your muscles relax, and your attention is no longer fragmented between now and later. You stop checking reality for signs because confirmation is no longer required for your internal safety. This is where many people get confused. They think they need to be high vibe or ecstatic. But the quantum field responds most powerfully to neutrality. Neutrality is the signature of completion. It says, "This is so certain that I no longer need to think about it." When a system settles into this quiet recognition, reality collapses faster than it ever could through motivated effort. Part 6. Normalization and the path of least resistance. Once the internal switch flips, something subtle begins to happen. Reality does not rush toward you with fireworks. It begins to reorganize indifferently. Manifestation often feels like normalization. It feels as if something that was out of place has finally been corrected. Opportunities appear casually, conversations shift, and old obstacles simply feel unnecessary. The field isn't delivering a prize. It is reflecting a new internal order by removing resistance from paths that already existed. Neuroscience explains this through attentional filtering. When your brain is no longer activated by lack, your perception shifts. You stop scanning for proof and start responding to what is actually present. You make simpler decisions, your timing improves, and you say yes to things you would have previously hesitated on. From the outside, it looks like luck. From the inside, it feels like ease. Part 7. The trap of too quiet. The most difficult phase of this process is the silence. When coherence is established, life often feels strangely uneventful for a brief period. This is because the field is reorganizing probabilities, not creating noise. The mind hates this phase because it equates effort with control. When things go quiet, the mind panics and asks, "Shouldn't I be visualizing more? Should I check my bank account again?" The moment you follow that impulse to do something out of fear, you reactivate the state of waiting. The real work here is non-inference, letting the rearrangement complete itself without your mental interference. You must learn to tolerate completion before the evidence arrives. If you can remain resolved in the face of silence, the final, undeniable change will arrive in a way that feels inevitable. Part 8. Stabilizing the quantum identity manifestation is not a one-time event. It is a state that must be stabilized. If your coherence is momentary, your results will be temporary. To make a permanent shift in your reality, you must stabilize the identity of the person who has already finished the journey. This is not about pretending or faking it until you make it. It is about creating internal structures that return your nervous system to coherence whenever the mind wanders. You must practice feeling safe without future-based reassurance. When already done becomes your baseline somatic state, the field has no choice but to reflect that structural change in your physical world. Conclusion. Ending the negotiation. Waiting was never something that happened to you. It was something your system was doing. It was an active choice to keep your wholeness in the future. The moment you stop negotiating with the future, the quantum gap disappears. You don't need to be more positive. You don't need to be more patient. You simply need to change your relationship with completion itself. Stop seeking alignment and start allowing the system to remain stable. Because in the moment you stop waiting for reality to move, reality no longer has a reason to wait for you.